have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Chaplesky.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 5 items up for public hearing this evening. I'm going to ask our clerk to read public hearing number 1.
Resolution to confirm and adopt the report of the city engineer containing the schedule of proposed assessments for improvements listed on the agenda for removal and construction of the concrete alley pavement, stormwater, and storm under drain.
Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor Devine. Okay, this is the public hearing for the 5 alleys that we're proposing to do this summer. Here's the procedure for tonight. I'll discuss the project scope and cost. I'll discuss the assessment rates and methods of payment. Then we'll have a time for questions and comments from the Common Council, and then a time from citizens. Then the public hearing will be closed, and the project will be referred to the Public Works Committee for discussion and a possible vote tonight. And then it would possibly come back here to the full council for a recommendation later tonight. So here's the 5 alleys. The first one, this didn't get labeled, but this is 91st to 92nd, Montana to Dakota. This alley dates back to 1963, so it's 56 years old. We usually expect to get about 50 years out of a concrete pavement. The next alley is 14 feet wide. It's from 90th to 91st, Rogers to Beecher. This concrete is from 1950, so it's 69 years old. That makes it one of the oldest alleys, I believe, in the entire city. So that is 69 years old. It's got potholes in it. The third alley is from 94th to 96th, from Harding to Cleveland. That alley dates to 1968. It's 51 years old. That alley is 18 to 20 feet wide. Then the fourth alley is from 77th to 78th, Union Pacific to Hicks. We're actually only doing the parts highlighted. This part is in decent shape. So this alley actually dates back to 1930. So that part is 89 years old. Then they did resurface it in 1976. So the asphalt on top here is 43 years old, and the concrete under here is 89 years old. And then the last alley is from 60th to 62nd, from Greenfield to Orchard. The east-west portion actually was done when Walgreens was built, but we are just talking about this part here that was built in 1928. So that's 91 years old, and then they did resurface it in 1973. So this asphalt is 46 years old on top of 91-year-old concrete, which is under here. So very old alley. Here's just a few more pictures from some of the alleys. This is 91, 92, Montana to Dakota, horrible potholes. This is the one, 77, 78, Railroad to Hicks. The routine maintenance at this point is very difficult, very expensive to keep filling all these potholes. This one has a very unusual settling problem from 94 to 96, Harding to Cleveland. Almost half the entire length has settled very badly. This is the other alley at 91, 92, Montana to Dakota. This is what we call alligator cracking. This is the final stages of a pavement's life when it looks like this. This is what it should look like, and this is what it will look like when we're all done. These will be new concrete alleys with a very pronounced V in the middle, so the water will drain in the middle like it's supposed to. We will be putting in under drain and sucking up a lot of the water that's under the alley. Here's some more information. Each alley will take about 25 days. We've been doing this for about 20 years, and they pretty much always get done in 25 days. Like I said, the work will include storm sewer and under drain under the alley, which is something that was not there previously. So a lot of that water that maybe made the alley deteriorate is going to be sucked into this under drain. There will be a 5-inch crushed stone base, which probably wasn't there previously. And then we'll have a new 7-inch concrete alley with the centerline V that I was talking about. In order to to form the alley, we probably, in many cases, will have to take about 2 feet of the private driveway, which we will put back in the same condition that we found it. If it's asphalt, we'll put back asphalt. If it's concrete, we'll put back concrete. But that's just to get the forms in on both sides of the alley, to form it up, and then we will fill in the private driveways later. The homeowners may contact the contractor to have the entire driveway done if they would like to, but that would be between the homeowner and the contractor if they want to do that. The homeowners will have to park on the street during the time when the alley is being paved. You can park on the street without a permit. The police will be advised that people's alley is being done, so there's no need for a permit in that situation. There will be several sustainability benefits to the construction we're doing. The gravel we use will be 100% recycled crushed concrete from old pavements. We'll be using recycled fly ash from electric plants in the concrete to reduce the mining for new cement. And then the asphalt, the new asphalt will be made from 20 to 35% old recycled asphalt to reduce any mining or drilling for new materials for asphalt. Here's the cost of all 5 alleys together, about $289,000 to do the 5 alley pavements. One alley does have some sanitary work, which is fairly rare. And then all the alleys will have the storm sewer that I talked about for $147,000. So $500,000 to do 5 alleys. The assessment rates are graduated, so you pay for what you get. If you have a 14-foot alley, you pay $30 per foot. If you have a 20-foot alley, you pay $36 a foot. So you're paying for what you get, not paying for what you don't get. Here's how the project. Oops. Sanitary sewer that I mentioned is coming out of a special sanitary sewer utility fund. The storm sewer that I talked about is coming from the stormwater management system funds. So that's 29%. 29% is also coming from the general tax, property tax fund, which everybody pays in the city, almost everybody. And then the special assessments for the abutting property owners is also about 29%. So the majority of the funding is coming from citywide fees. So a sample residential assessment for a 14-foot alley, if you have a 30-foot lot, the rate that I talked about was $30.31 per foot. So your total cost would be $909.30. The bills in this case would not be mailed out until March of 2020. So not 2019, but 2020. The payment options when you get the bill would be that you could pay it off as a lump sum, or you could put it on a 5-year plan or a 10-year installment plan. If you chose the 10-year plan, assuming 4% interest, the special assessments would range from $127 to the first year, 2020, to $95 for the whole year in 2029. So why do we special assess? Well, for over 110 years, city residents have historically paid the full cost of a new street or alley in front of their property because they're enjoying this unique benefit from this improvement to their property. As I said, on this project, the city is collecting $144,000, so that's about 29% of the total cost in this case. But the assessment rates are the same for all residential properties anywhere in the city. Doesn't matter how high the actual bid prices are or where you live or how much traffic is in your alley. Everybody pays exactly the same, the $30 or whatever width alley you have. Everyone is treated equally. I just want to point out that for over 100 years, Wisconsin state law has allowed for special assessments. And over that 100 years, there have been over 100 court cases in which judges have upheld this law as fair and reasonable method to recoup these costs. So this method has certainly stood the test of time. Special assessments are the only way to ensure that tax-exempt schools, churches, charities, hospitals, county parks, utilities, and railroads pay their fair share. No one is exempt from special assessments, even though 430 properties in the city do not pay any property taxes. And many of these tax-exempt schools, churches, hospitals, and county parks are very large pieces of property that actually encompass about 28% of the total land area of the city. So they are only contributing to the city's costs through these special assessments. Likewise, businesses, corporations, and manufacturers pay a higher assessment rate to ensure that they contribute their fair share because of extra traffic and so on. Their assessment rates are from $45 to $54 per foot. This is what I was just saying. These are the 430 properties, all the shaded properties, the 430 properties that are tax exempt, that don't pay any city property taxes. This just points out that these are the only funds, the special assessments are the only funds that a lot of these shaded areas are paying to the city, which is why, one of the reasons why we do this. Now this map shows all the shading shows all the different colors, shows where people have paid special assessments in the past 10 years. The different colors represent different years, but you can see, at least on the east end of the city, almost everyone has paid their fair share. Everyone has paid at least for their street, if not also for their street and their alley in the last 10 years. So everyone is paying their fair share, I guess, is the bottom line I'm trying to point out here. Many of you have probably paid for your street previously. I know Rogers, Cleveland, some of those streets have been done in the past few years. It's not unusual. 10,000 parcels out of the total 19,000 parcels in the city do pay for more than one side of their property. So that's 55% of the people. And then 7,400 parcels out of the 19,000 are paying for their street and their alley. So that's 38% of the parcels in the city are in the same situation. And then there's another 3,400 parcels out of the 19,000 that pay for 2 or more streets. So that's about 17%. So the majority of people are paying for more than one side of their property, for either their street and their alley or 2 streets. Why do we charge 4% interest? Well, the city borrows the funds for this project, and the city is paying interest to these municipal bondholders over the next 10 years. So the city is merely passing along these interest charges to any residents that choose the 5 or 10 year payment plan. The city is not making a profit off of that interest that we are charging. There will, like I said, have to be some parking on the street during construction, during those 25 days. Usually during the first 10 days or so when they're putting the sewer in, you can probably still get into your alley, get into your garage. It's just those last 15 days when you're probably going to have to park on the street while the concrete is being poured and getting hard. But like I said, on-street parking permits would not be needed. The police will be patrolling the neighborhood. If you have a special situation where you need a disabled parking space on the street, we can do that. We can put a sign like this up. If you have any of these placards or license plates, that's something, if you have that situation, please see me and we can make arrangements for that. Here's a little bit of the schedule. The city is hoping to advertise for bids starting on May 29th. The bid opening would then be on June 12th. The city does not get to pick the contractor. According to state law, we do have to take the low bidder. Then on June 18th, the council would award the contract, and we would hope to begin the work by about July 15th. Each of the alleys would have the 25-day deadline, like I said. Hopefully all 5 alleys would be done by November 15th. The contractor would be posting a performance bond to guarantee their work, and the contractor would be assessed a $1,000 per day penalty if the work goes past the 25-day deadline or past the November 15th deadline. So at this point, if there's any comments or questions, we can hear them now.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Are there any comments or questions from the members of the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any members of the audience that have comments or questions on this item? We ask that you give us your name and address for our record, please.
John Nimmer, 2800 block on South 92nd Street, 4th District. I'm going to try to keep this under 3 minutes if I can. Would it be cheaper if we just made, I'm talking about the 2800 block from Dakota to Montana. It'd be cheaper just to make it 16 feet wide because they only plow 12 feet of it in the wintertime anyway. Also, that pitch on that alley everything runs into the middle. When the plow goes over it, you have this much of an air gap, which winds up being iced over. So you have your ruts. When you get down to the end of the alley by 91st Street, it goes up and over the sidewalk. If I had 300 pounds in the trunk or somebody in my back seat, the bottom of my car scrapes on the sidewalk, rather than keeping the alley straight and dipping down the sidewalk.
Well, we can look at that.
Okay.
Sure.
That's right. The other thing I'm thinking about, you could be putting a storm drain down the whole alley.
Sure, yes.
Why? There's a natural pitch already.
There's a lot of water under the alleys. I've been an inspector in a lot of alleys, and they're just very wet because a lot of the yards are draining that way. There's a lot of water under the alley, then the alleys get wet underneath, and then that deteriorates the concrete underneath from the bottom. So
Okay.
it'll help preserve the alley, make it last longer.
All right, so that's just putting more holes in the concrete so the water can get in to run underneath the concrete.
Well, no, I mean, there'll be the same number of catch basins, but I'm saying there's going to be a pipe with like an underdrain, like with little holes.
I know there's a pipe already from the north end of the straightaway going towards 91st Street, because the water used to flow down the alley, down into a drain, into Montana, then would go out to the curb and run down the curb all the way to 84th Street. Then it would go back underground again until it got into the ditch at Echo Park, now called McCarty Park. I'm just wondering how many times I have to pay to have an alley put in. I mean, we paid once when it was changed over from gravel to pea gravel and tar. We paid again when that was taken out and put in blacktop. And we paid again in '60 when he turned it into this big concrete slab.
Well, this
Now we
should,
have to pay again?
this would last 50 years.
It'll last 50 years.
Every 50 years,
I
I
sure
guess
hope
you'll
I
have
don't
to
last
pay.
50 years. Anyway, I'm somewhat in favor of it, but I just don't like having to pay again. And there has to be some corrections on that, on the pitch of the alley into the center.
We can work
And
on
it would be
that.
nice if they would plow the whole alley. I have it's similar to a Sprinter, Ford Transit E350, 12-passenger van. I cannot park it on the street in front of my house because it's going to get hit, because the parking area for cars in front of the house is too narrow since they widened our street. So that's another thing I'm against. And I'd like to know exactly when that area is going to be done so I can be out of state when that's done.
Well, you'll get a letter and we'll tell you exactly when we're starting.
Okay, because I have other places to go in this country besides sit and watch my alley be tore up.
Okay.
So,
Well,
okay.
We can accommodate
you.
that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the members of the audience? Okay, we will close public hearing number 1, and I will ask our clerk to read public hearing number 2.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for Columbus Club of West Allis, an existing Catholic fraternal organization to be located at 7633 West Beloit Road.
Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Knights of Columbus are relocating from their current location on 92nd Street to the Repeated Shopping Center shown in this overhead. Because it's an assembly, it's a special use, and they'll be occupying about 1,300 square feet of the Repeated's grocery store approximately in this area. They can have up to 30 members, that was their request. We have been discussing with the building department and the fire department, and they could theoretically go up to 50 members if the council should desire. Hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., but they'd also be authorized to conduct administrative tasks during the normal business day. As we mentioned, they could go up to 50 members if the council just authorized it. The Knights of Columbus will be located in this portion of the building with the grocery store being off to the right there. And they've already under an approved site and landscaping plan, and so no additional improvements will be required. 13 parking spaces are required for this particular use, and the parking lot has about 114. The Planning Commission has reviewed this proposal and recommended approval, and if you have any additional questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Siebel. Are there any comments or questions from the council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel?
John, so this isn't going to be like how I remember the Knights of Columbus where they'd be booking events there. I mean, their capacity is going to be 30. So it wouldn't be like weddings or anything. It's just going to be strictly their meetings or some other small business type meetings.
It would just be for their use.
Yes.
For the Knights of Columbus use, not for public
Okay. Thank you.
use.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, seeing no questions, we will close public hearing number 2, and I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 3.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for Jose Vidrios Auto Repair, a proposed auto repair business to be located within the existing mixed-use building at 5606 West Burnham.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In this particular site, they have had garage-type operations and other uses, but since it's been vacant for more than a year, this requires a special use to be held, and that's the purpose of this hearing this evening. In this facility, there'll be 3 uses and 1 residential use above there. The existing parking lot will be redefined, and there'll be additional landscaping throughout the property. The uses are going to be the auto garage, another business located in here, and then a landscaping tree cutting service. 13 parking stalls are required. They'll actually have 14. And the refuge that's currently proposed to be located over here, they now want to move it over next to the building and then put it into an enclosure, and that will be authorized with this special use. The heavy trucks that you currently see there will not be allowed to be on that site. They'll have to be located off-site, and I think that was the result of one of the objections that we've been hearing the most about as to where those trucks are going to be located. The Planning Commission has reviewed this, and we've received no objections, but just that one question relative to the heavy trucks. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the council on public hearing number 3? Seeing there are no questions, are there any comments or questions from our members of the audience? And again, if you could give us your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Linda Sertic. I live at 5611 West Burnham, directly across from there. For a couple of years, he's had those heavy trucks. I know you had said that he's not going to be parked there, but they may come during the day. My concern is where's all the repair shop's customers and employees going to park? Because we all share on-street parking. But the biggest one is the noise. When the previous owner had his car lot there and was given permission to work on cars that he sold, the noise was unbearable. He had loud music going. He had equipment inside the garage. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know what equipment this was that made so much noise. I think he was supposed to keep his doors closed. That didn't happen. He was supposed to not paint, and I think he was painting because we could get the fumes by us. So my big question is if they're in violation of whatever you allow them to do, who's going to enforce it?
I would encourage you to contact me or your alderpersons, and if we find evidence of a violation, we can revoke their special use permit.
Okay. Because right now, they're really good neighbors, and I'd like to keep it that way. I just think that it's open up a can of worms if they were repairing cars. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Are there any other comments or questions from the council, or the members of the audience, rather?
Hi, my name is Marge Jablonski. I live at 5615 West Burnham, which is, again, directly across the street next to Linda. My only concern was the noise, too, because the previous owner, they'd play their music really loud. In the summer, you couldn't even leave your windows open. And a couple times we were told to call the police. Well, the police aren't there to enforce noise pollution. And so as long as we can call our aldermen and make complaints that way, and hopefully they'll be good neighbors and not be real noisy with the loud playing of the music and stuff like that. So that was my only concern, is in the summertime.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the members of the audience? Seeing none, we will close our third public hearing, and I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 4.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for Bonitas, a proposed restaurant to be located at 1412 South 73rd Street, submitted by Fernando Walker, applicant, and Dan Byer, architect.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant is proposing a sandwich shop to be located in this building on 73rd Street in the downtown area. It'll be a deli type thing. There'll be no hood, no grease or oil, no alcoholic beverages. It's kind of a small little sandwich shop. There'll not be any seating in there, although not prohibited from having seating, but that's not currently proposed. 14 parking spaces will be required for this use, but they're adjacent to a city parking lot, so those are waived. The hours of operation are going to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and it's more of a, like I said, a Subway deli type shop with soft drinks. No alcoholic beverages will be served. The Planning Commission has reviewed this project, has recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this item? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Seeing none, we will close our 4th public hearing, and I will ask the clerk to read our 5th public hearing.
Ordinance to amend the official West Dallas zoning map by removing the PDD2 Commercial Overlay District from Lot 1 of the property located at 1010, 1040, 1126, and 1304 South 70th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this property is currently what we refer to as the East Office Building. That is virtually vacant, about 9%, 8% occupied. It's proposed to be demolished in about 6 months. As soon as that's demolished, the hotel will be positioned in this north lot. Currently, there is a planned unit development district overlay, a zoning overlay, that will allow more than one building per lot. It's now the owner's intent to have certified survey maps created for each development. And there'll be this one hotel building and 2 or 3 additional certified survey maps for up to 300,000 square feet or more office space. So the purpose of the public hearing today is just to remove the planned, the PDD overlay district. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there comments or questions from the council on public hearing number 5? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the audience on public hearing number 5? Seeing that there are none, we will close our 5th public hearing.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I would like to item the 2019 0188 5606 West Burnham. I would like to hold it for now until the 2nd council meeting. Because first of all, the gentleman who applied for, is not here. So I have some questions from him before he gets his approval. Because, I'm tired from last time, from the other previous owner, the way he ran the operation there.
I'm sorry, which item is this, Alderman?
Yeah, the one on 56 and Burnham, the auto repair, the public hearing.
Oh.
Yeah, item 3, number 3.
All right, we can bring that up in committee.
Yeah, we can do that, right?
Yeah.
Alderman, sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our agenda's item E, is citizen participation. Members of the public can address the council during this period of our agenda. We ask that you keep your comments to about 5 minutes. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will wrap up citizen participation and we will move on to item F. Our standing committees will be meeting during our recess this evening. Those room numbers are listed on your agendas on page 2. Moving on to item G, the mayor's report. I just have a couple things. First off, I want to publicly acknowledge and thank and congratulate our Health Commissioner, Sally Nusslock. The West Allis Health Department was one of the first 4 health departments in the nation to be reaccredited by the Public Health Accreditation Board, and we were the only city-level health department to pass in this first round. The others were either county, multi-county, or statewide agencies. So our health commissioner and the staff at the health department have done a really wonderful job providing services to our community, and I just want to give them some public recognition. The other thing I want to briefly touch on is just the number of restaurants that we have had opening up recently in our community. Earlier today, Alderperson Reinke and I were over at Blaze Pizza on Highway 100 and National, where they took a pretty much decrepit, horribly ugly old tire store place and gave it a facelift and put a vibrant business in there. A couple of weeks ago, Alderman Eric Oitmeyer and Marty Weigel and I were at Chilango Express on Lincoln Avenue, where they moved from a smaller space into a larger space. We've had Wild Roots open up right across from the West Allis Cheese and Sausage Shop on Beecher. And over this past weekend, we also had a Vietnamese restaurant open up on 105th and Greenfield in the old Sammy's. Pho Saigon, they have Chinese and Vietnamese food. So we've always had a lot of really good local restaurants, but we're getting even more, and there are more coming. So I'm just asking people, if you're in that area and you want to stop and visit one of our new places, there's pretty much one on every corner of the city to check out. So I want to congratulate them and wish them all success. That concludes the mayor's report. Do we have any alderpersons' reports this evening?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel.
I promised my wife I'd make a comment about this. Now that the snowbanks are 99% gone, I'd like to thank the residents and business owners that have taken a couple minutes to sweep up out in front of their houses and their businesses, because the city definitely looks better with 10 minutes with a broom. And I'd also ask the people that haven't had the time yet to maybe find some time this weekend. If we all chip in, it'll make the whole city nicer. I did just notice our big neighbor to the east raised the fine for littering from $50 to $500 today. So maybe that's something we want to think about. And then on the topic of picking up things, I know we have a lot of dog owners in the community, and most of you know that we're working on creating our own dedicated dog park here in the city of West Allis. And as a reminder to that end, the West Allis Community Improvement Foundation annual dinner dance gala this year, the dog park is the beneficiary. I will remind you, I believe today is the last day to buy your tickets online at the discounted price of $60. That includes dinner, music. I think we're gonna have an hour of beer at the beginning. Lots of great raffles and door prizes involved in that. The gala this year is Saturday, April 27th at the Zufari Center over on Blue Mound Road. There's full information is available on the city website. Again, we're fundraising for a dog park that we're trying to make it free for West Allis residents at least. And as a reminder, the dog park will be on the west side of town, kind of just east of Hale High School and south of the police station. And we're looking for construction to be this summer with a ribbon cutting this fall. So, but the dinner dance is our big fundraiser. Again, Saturday, April 27th at the Zufari Center. Thank you.
When you were talking about dogs and picking up, I didn't think you were going to go to the gala. I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Any other alderpersons' reports? Okay.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of March 19th, 2019, and the special meeting of March 21st, 2019.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Reinke. Are there any adjustments or amendments to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Items not referred to committee, I will ask for a motion to send items 7 through 12 to the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Weigel, second by Alderman Barzak. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports, the License and Health Committee.
I'd like to report on items number 13 through 16 in tonight's agenda. These are various license and communications voted to place on file or approve, or in the case of number 16, to deny by 4 members, with 1 member being excused. I'd like to move for the adoption of this portion of the committee's report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Rote. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And I have item number 17. This is a license that is voted for approval by 3 members, 1 member voting no and 1 member excused. I'd like to move for the adoption of the remainder of the committee's report.
Second.
For discussion.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Rote. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Rote.
I will be changing my vote to no because the applicant drove with a revoked license to the meeting
And back.
and back.
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Chaplesky.
All right. I also will be changing my vote from approval to no, because he was asked right there how he got here, and he says, I believe he said his girlfriend drove him. So I'll also be changing my vote to a no.
And just so, if everyone's not aware, there was evidence of him leaving the City Hall parking lot and getting into his car and driving away on our security cameras out there. So,
I mean, Mr. Mayor, physically, there is any evidence of this man driving without a license, don't have a driver license? I mean, is that really facts?
there was the video
I mean,
of
if-
City Hall footage of him walking out, and correct me if I'm wrong, and getting into his car in the parking lot and driving off. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor Devine,
Alderman Barzak.
and just to clarify, because I think I know where Vince is going, I was not there, but my understanding is that at the committee, that he was asked, how did you get here tonight? That the committee knew he did not have a driver's license. And he was asked, how did you get here tonight? And he said, my girlfriend drove me. And then there's video evidence of there's no girlfriend. He jumped in the car and drove the car away. So number one, he lied directly to the committee. Number two, he doesn't have a driver's license, which to me is irresponsible as can be, getting in the vehicle and driving away. So I'll cast my vote when it's my turn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Motion is to approve, correct?
The motion is to approve, and it has been seconded. If there's no other discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Shableski.
No.
Oitmeyer.
No.
Haas. I'm sorry, Lysick.
No.
Reinke.
No.
Rote.
No.
Vitale.
No.
Weigel.
No.
Barzak.
No.
That's 8 noes.
Motion fails.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman
I'd
Weigel.
like to make a motion to deny the license.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to deny. Is there any discussion? On the motion to deny, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Shableski.
Aye.
Oitmeyer. Aye. Lysick.
Aye.
Reinke.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
And Barzak.
Aye.
That's 8 yeses.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
First, I'd like to note that item 37 on the agenda, which was initially referred to Safety and Development, is being changed to be referred to Public Works Committee. And then I'd like to move that we recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderman Barzak. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are in recess.
Okay, it's called a meeting to order. The first thing we have is item number 50, communication from Alter, Mr. Alter. I think it's Mr. And they want to change the name from State Fair Liquor and Food Mart to State Fair Food and Liquor Mart.
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Weigel.
I believe that was at the recommendation of one of the council members that said they liked the idea of it. Food coming first.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move to place on file.
Second.
Well, don't we need approval?
Is it approval? No, it's
Just a place on file?
communication.
Yeah, but sometimes we vote in favor of communications too. Okay, place on file. Got a motion by Weigel, second by Road. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 51 is various license. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Gotta make me ask, huh?
No, subject to necessary requirements.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Then we have a discussion item. special event permits. Go ahead.
Chair Rebecca Grill, City Administrator. The staff has been working on putting together information or proposal for a special event permit. A draft is before you tonight. It's not in an ordinance format. It's just suggestions regarding how it could be, the guidelines that could be included in the ordinance. We wanted to create standards and a process for those people that want to have a special event in the city and allow notification for events so that we have sufficient resources available, such as police and fire resources, so that we can safely provide for the event and for the people who might be participating and the residents. Provide clarity on the process for people, and then work towards cost recovery of the resources that are allocated for the events, as well as provide standards for services provided by city staff. Apparently, for some events that are not held in the public right of way, that are held on private property, city staff have been providing resources for those. So we just need to make the council aware of that and some outlines for that.
And that would be handled in the ordinance?
Yeah, so we're looking for some input from you on what you want included, what should be mandated as part of the ordinance, as well as some input on discretion. There's different areas of discretion that is allocated in here. The first is under the authority section. It gives the city clerk basically a broad brush of authority to develop policies that are not in conflict with anything in the ordinance or any other policies and procedures. Then under the application requirements, the clerk can accept an application without certain documents in certain circumstances. There's under the fee section, there's a waiving of the timing requirement. There's also information regarding, the biggest section would be the issuance and denial standards. Under there, I think that city attorney and the city clerk might have some additional comments on the draft that's before you tonight.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Well, the draft is presented more as a just prose for you to read and go through and decide what you're going to do, rather than draft an ordinance that's going to be what you're going to consider tonight. There's so many options out there that we wanted to get some direction first from the committee, so then I can take it back and draft it the way that the council would want it to be handled. So the main idea is on one end of the spectrum, you could create a very tight, very rigorous special events permit that has everything in place with very little discretion for staff, and everyone just simply applies the rules and issues permits based upon that. On the other end of the spectrum, you could provide a lot of discretion to the clerk, police, fire, and DPW, so that they can work within the boundaries that you set to issue special event permits and ensure that the services necessary are there. So it's really up to the committee to decide, do you want to go with more stringent rules that are predictable, consistent, easily enforceable, more discretionary rules that are easier to work with and more flexible for the applicants, yet you still have to create some boundaries and standards for what discretion you are going to allocate to staff. So it's more, some things can be very strict, some things can be discretion. Like I said, it's just such a wide open box there, and you can do it for public property only or public and private. So it's really up to the committee's decision to decide what kind of directive you want to give staff in drafting an ordinance for your consideration.
No, we will be discussing this again, you know, when we have a full committee. And everything. What type of policies would you be looking at? It says, you know, the clerk makes certain policies. What?
I think more of like procedural policies, right? So
And how does it?
So the applicant would come in, and there would be a procedure on how to disseminate the information, collect the information from the various department heads. And if something triggers based on like the denial criteria, that would be a reason to deny or go to the committee if we need to. those kind of policies are just the procedural aspects of it.
And we're doing this because we're getting more applications, or when we've run into problems, or why are we?
Both. And
Okay.
we would like to cultivate more events in the city, so we need to have some guidelines for that.
And right now, there are at least 3, if not more, different ordinances that in some cases overlap or are not clear as to what applies. Sometimes a certain event would apply, it looks like you have to get multiple permits. So the goal is to create one permit where if you're gonna do something that causes any level of additional services, city services to be required, or any type of specific gathering, again, the scale of which is sort of at the committee's discretion here, then the special event permit is the answer. It's simple, it's easy to explain to the public. Public knows what they want, we know how to evaluate it, and it can become a nice, thorough and robust process within the city, as opposed to trying to follow 4 different standards depending on the type of event.
Okay, if we have a number of events, let's say 4 in one day, they're all going on, and they all want road closures and equipment or something, are we gonna have enough equipment to do that?
That would
And if
be-
we don't, what do we do?
That's one of the bases, is that things could be denied if we don't have enough resources to provide that.
So we go by whoever applied first or something, or that's what we set up?
Well, that will be part of the policies as well. Another aspect is this is creating a mechanism where all departments are on the same page. So right now, people are going to various departments for different aspects of the event, and depending on the type of event, as Cale mentioned, they might have to go to just fire department, but then Public Works is impacted. With this mechanism, we find these things out if there's multiple events going on, and now we don't have resources to follow.
Okay. Okay, I gotta look it over better and go over a little bit more on it. I guess we'll be discussing.
Mr. Chair, I guess I just have a question of policy. Are we thinking higher for non-residents, higher a different fee structure? We're gonna have a 2-tiers fee structure?
That's what we're looking
That's-
for from you,
yeah.
if you
I mean,
wanted
would we
to
charge-
consider that.
I know in the time I've been here, somebody got married at Rogers Park, and because they wanted to have their wedding at Rogers Park, and we really didn't have a way to handle that. They lived in the neighborhood, and I think if somebody wants to do that, I mean, you know. Yeah, I think a 2-tier fee structure.
Read it thoroughly, because we could develop a mechanism to have it based on the size.
Yeah,
based
oh, yeah,
on
there's
residents, based on the fact that they're in a park or not.
A nonprofit might get a discount versus a for-profit entity, or,
Yeah.
So the major question with fees is, there is a statute requiring that the fee has to be rationally related to the cost of the event.
okay, so we can't give a discount for the,
Well, that's the thing, so as long as you're not doubling the cost, you're fine. If the price is the fees, and you're giving a
discount for
to a
residents.
resident, you're essentially saying the taxpayers are gonna be
Yeah.
partially funding the cost of your event because you're a resident. That would be how you'd have to handle it, so just to ensure that whatever the top fee is cannot exceed the actual cost.
Yeah, and this is gonna cover, I know for the dog park, we were thinking about doing like a pop-up beer garden event at the dog park eventually, not this year, but next year. So, but that would be a city-sponsored event.
If a city-sponsored event, you wouldn't be charging
No.
for that. This is more for non-city I mean, there's, the way that it's written, it's a city-produced event is not included. If, funerals and funeral processions, people going to and from school, events on state fair. And then, currently it says events held on private property unless the event requires city services, but you could also include private property. The way the fees are laid out right now, the fee for the special event is $500. If there's, if it's foreseen to cost more than $500 for city services provided, we would also charge city services fee, which includes a $50 per hour employee charge, police, fire, public works employees, and then there's equipment fees that are listed in here. Barricades, benches, no parking signs and things like that. So, those are the things that are currently in there.
Yeah, we don't have any, you can't rent a park like Rogers Park. You can't rent a park or any portion of a park, city parks.
We have a park, policy currently,
There's
Public Works.
Well, that was the problem with that wedding. The people, we couldn't
Right, just
guarantee,
sometimes.
we had to be able to guarantee that,
Well,
yeah.
one thing to keep in mind, because I've been through this particular permit in the past, renting a park is merely to reserve the park so no one else can use it but you. It really has nothing to do with an event, but we do have it in here, I believe Rebecca put that in there, that if they are renting a park, because they are paying a fee to rent the park. So that's another thing you gotta think of, if you wanna include those or not. Right now, I think she has it in here as,
They're not, yeah, they're not
they're
included.
not, they'd be
Yeah.
exempt from it.
Because there's a alcohol component with those parks and things like that. I don't know if you wanted to include that. This also, provides for the block parties to be part of it for $25. No equipment fees are charged for that. Neighborhood
We're talking about for
cleanups.
National Night Out, for Ann and all,
Yeah.
yeah.
Neighborhood cleanups, there's no fees charged. If you're a bona-fide nonprofit organization like 501c3s, you don't have to pay the equipment fees, but, you have to pay the equipment fees, but the delivery fees shall be waived, things like that. So we just need some guidance on this because as, we are providing some of these services without the authority at this time, so,
You're just renting out a park, though, it's a public park, paid for by the public. I just have a problem,
Well,
like the
county
county,
does it. The
well,
county
county,
does
but they have picnic areas.
Yeah.
And the picnic areas are there to rent, that's basically what they're there for, because they're all numbered, and whereas we don't have that structure of anything.
We had a group that wanted to rent our skate park for an event. And internally, we decided the skate park with no dedicated parking, no plumbing, no bathrooms. It wasn't built for, our skate park was not built as a regional skate park for hosting events. It's just not conducive to that. So we just plain told them no.
this does not include the parks. There is a separate park policy.
Oh, that's
I
right,
don't-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is more for like if somebody wants to block off the street, or if
Okay.
they wanna have a huge parade, or anything that's really gonna encumber our resources.
Okay.
On the street block off, I think typically when somebody has a block party, we ask them to get signatures from the neighbors.
That's-
Or are we gonna do a mail or a notify like we do for a public hearing? I mean, $500, will that cover mailing the neighbors on an affected? Oh, God.
So the way that this is written is if they wanna, for special events that include a street event or block party, written consent from representatives of at least 50% of the occupied lots that abut the portion of the street to be closed need to be included.
So the
as
onus
part-
is on the organizer to prove to us.
Correct.
Okay, and so we have no responsibility to notify people that, what if the guy, well, I go down one side of the street, I got my 50%, he doesn't even knock on the doors on the people across the street. Suddenly they come on Sunday morning, I come home from church and there's barricades, and I can't get to my front door. I think there should be a notification process on a street closure.
So perhaps you wanna have more than 50% of the residents notified, or,
The way I've seen other communities do it too is that you only need 50% of the residents to get the
Approve it,
permit.
yes.
But then prior to the event, there's a notification or public, like
Yes.
signage we post in
Yeah.
the block.
Yes,
This will be
something,
closed
door
later
tags
today.
or some like I said,
That could again be on the organizers to do that.
so you get consent from 50%.
50%, because,
There's
yeah,
notification of all.
I don't have a problem with the 50% consent. I just want to make sure that all the affected property owners.
Yeah,
are-
I'm not
So,
surprised by
Part
it.
of the criteria is to include the various departments as well as the 2 aldermen of the district. It's incumbent on the department heads and alders to provide comments and potential conditions to the
Yes,
permit.
yeah,
So
that's
that
one
could
of
be-
them. Notification on street closures.
On all circumstances in which roads are gonna be closed,
Yeah, parades,
so that,
block parties,
Yeah.
Hollywood film shoots.
Right, this, you could do right now, we've had issues where we've had
a lot of
people
people,
wanna come in and do shooting of movies
Really?
or
I
something.
was making that up.
No, that
Okay.
actually happened
they-
last year, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that charge.
Yeah, so this would could
Yeah.
include that.
Yeah.
So
And the DNC is gonna be here next year. Some people might wanna do
All
something.
sorts of events.
Yeah. Stop it.
I didn't say nothing,
So, is
So
your
why don't you climate
direction
change?
that we have another discussion
Yeah.
at the next?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
Especially with 2 guys.
Did these
Did this notice go out to the entire council?
The other 5? Or just this committee?
Just
I
this
think we'd like
committee.
Why
input.
don't we send it out to the other
Public
5, so they
Works.
know this is going on also?
Okay.
So everybody's
Yeah,
informed.
yeah, Public Works too.
And I don't remember if Rebecca said it or not, but she did send it out to all the department heads to comment on it.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, she did.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. Okay, that's it then. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Okay, now for the real reason we're here. Like to call the Administration and Finance Committee to order. 3 members being present, 2 being excused. We're going to start with item number 18. Is an ordinance to amend salary ordinance number 2018-027, establishing the pay for crossing guards in the miscellaneous pay scale.
Due
Rebecca?
to the recent unfortunate events, we are needing to hire crossing guards for ourselves. We've been, the police department and HR has been working together to fill that gap, but if we're gonna be doing it for a longer term, we need to establish the salary schedule for them. So this includes crossing guards.
We got about 2 more months, a little over 2 months.
We have a reprieve this week, yes.
Oh, break.
Do we believe that this is gonna, the situation's gonna resolve itself with a new contractor for next year? We don't know.
I'm not sure.
That's what they're working towards.
Yeah, so this is just gonna be, and it may be a lot of the same individuals,
Do
yeah.
Do we know what they were getting paid?
I believe
11
it
to
was
thir-
$10 an hour.
Yeah.
So they're starting out with $1 more than
Yeah,
they were.
it says 11 to 13 is what we're gonna get paid. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move for approval.
And
Second.
I'll take it Alderman Rote is gonna second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? 3 ayes, and the motion carries. Item number 19, we're gonna take with item number 22 at the request of the city administrator. Item number 19 is an ordinance to repeal section 2.25 and to amend section 2.52 in the city RMC regarding creation of farmers market committee fees. And item number 22 is amending the schedule of fees related to farmers market fees, which is why it makes sense that these 2 items be taken together.
So this is giving the authority to charge the fees and then establishing the fees. At this point, the fees are the same as what they were previously. It was just not included anywhere in the ordinances previously, so.
And these are the fees we're charging the farmers, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
It's like $500 a season. Right.
So that, none of that is just being changed. We're just codifying existing process.
Move for approval.
Second.
A second from Alderman Rote. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 19 and 22 carry. Item number 20.
Move for approval.
Hey, slow down.
What item?
20.
Second.
Alderman Rote, this is a resolution approving a loan to the city of West Dallas from fire to assist in the financing of the West Quarter West LLC and West Quarter East. This is the Cobalt Partners project. Do I have any discussion on this?
I think we already had enough.
Yeah, I think we've had enough discussion on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? It carries. 3-2. Item number 21, another resolution. This is to approve, oh, you know what? We're gonna hold this. I'm holding item number 21 because I have some questions on this. And I did talk to staff about it. It's not gonna bust anybody's timelines.
Okay.
Okay.
So 21's being held.
21's being held.
23.
23 is a communication from Cass Tech, one of our employers on National Avenue, and they're laying off 4 people, and it looks like doing a permanent closure in the first week of June.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Any further discussion? It'll be placed on file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Motion number 24 gets placed on file.
And item number
Second.
24, this is another closure. This is Motor Castings. They're moving, I think, to Indiana.
Indiana.
We're gonna miss them, 113 employees. I have a motion from Czapleski, a second from Rote. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? I believe that is it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Move for
moved.
adjournment. Second.
Gotta be faster, man.
What's that?
I'm quick on this.
You're light,
Well,
when you're
you're
closer,
adjourned.
he can hear you better.
Oh, I see.
Call the common council back to order. I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderman Shaplowski. Here. Whitenayer. Here. Lysick.
Here.
Frankie.
Here.
Rote. Here. Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
That's 8 present.
We have a quorum. We will begin with our Administration and Finance Committee.
Mayor Devine.
Pinch hitting, Alderman Marty Weigel.
Mayor and assembled council members, the Administration and Finance Committee met during recess with 3 members in attendance. Aldermans Haas and May were excused. We acted on a variety of matters, including items number 18, 19, 20, 22, and 23. 18, 19 were ordinances, 20 and 22 were resolutions, and 23 and 24 were communications. Item number 21 was held. The report from the committee is all 3 members in attendance voted in the affirmative for adoption of the resolutions, ordinances, and to accept the communications to place on file, with no members voting no. I move the adoption of the report.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Reinke. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Shaplowski.
Aye.
Whitenayer.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Frankie.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
That's 8 yeses.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor Devine.
Thank you. I'll pause till it goes by. Public Works Committee, Alderman Barzak. It illegally goes past you.
My understanding is that when May and Haas left the meeting last week, they yelled out, "I'm going to Disney World." Anyways,
That is correct.
items number 25 through 35 on tonight's agenda, and number 37. 32 and 33 were communications. They were all voted upon by all 5 members of the committee in affirmative. I move for adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderman Vitale. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Shaplowski.
Aye.
Whitenayer.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Frankie.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
That's 8 yeses.
Motion carries.
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now continue our evening with the Safety and Development Committee, Alderman Lysick.
Mayor Devine. I refer you to items 36, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. 42 is going to be as amended. We amended it. That's the Knights of Columbus from 30 people to 50 people. 43, 48, and 49 on your agenda. All various communications, resolutions, and ordinances acted upon favorably by all 5 members of the committee. I move for adoption of the committee report.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderman Barzak. Is there any discussion? Since there's no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Shaplowski.
Aye.
Whitenayer.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Frankie.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
That's 8 yeses.
Motion carries.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. License and Health Committee, Alderman Chaplowski.
Bring everyone's attention, items 50 and 51 on tonight's agenda. There's communication and various license. It was voted for place communication on file and approved subject to necessary requirements on the license by 3 members with 2 members excused. I'd like to move for the adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There's a motion with a second. I don't know who got it. Alderman Lysick got it. Big winner. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Are we voicing? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We have nothing from the advisory committee this evening?
No report this evening, Mayor
All right.
Devine.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Oop.
18th, correct?
Hey, what choice, Mayor?
It is the 16th?
Be a Tuesday.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.